Welcome back to RetroWheelsVault European Special, where elegance and adrenaline collide. This is the series where we unlock the finest machines from across the pond, cars built in Europe and driven by legends. Now, if you're getting deja vu, you're not wrong. This is a re-release, or rather a reimagining of our original Espada video. We ran into a little copyright turbulence, like hitting a pothole in an otherwise smooth ride, but we're back on the road, rebuilt and better than ever. Think of this as the Series 3 version of our own content. More refined, more polished, and a little more legal. Today we're diving back into the 1972 Lamborghini Espada Series III, a car that looks like a spaceship, sounds like an angry opera singer, and hauls people like a jet-powered lounge. It's the Lamborghini that asked, why should supercars only seat two? And then answer with leather, V12 thunder, and Italian flair. So buckle up, because this Grand Tour isn't just about performance, it's about presence. It's the exotic that brought a tuxedo to a drag race. Now here's a fun twist from the experimental vaults of Lamborghini. The Lancomatic suspension. Sounds like a fancy coffee machine, but no. This was a hydro-pneumatic self-leveling rear suspension system, developed in collaboration with German firm Langen and showcased on a lone Espada at the 1968 Turin Auto Show. This setup was Lamborghini's attempt to blend hydraulic wizardry with pneumatic finesse, promising the ride quality of a magic carpet and the poise of a gymnast on a balance beam. In theory, it was smoother than an espresso-fueled sales pitch, but in practice, well, not so much. According to legendary test driver Bob Wallace, the Lancomatic was more of a problem child than a prodigy. Seal failures, technical gremlins, and a ride harsh enough to make cobblestones feel personal meant it never made it past prototype status. Plus, it wasn't exactly cheap, unless your budget included a money-printing machine. It's believed Lamborghini may have pursued it to compete with the Ferrari 365 GT 2+2, which had its own self-leveling setup. But in the end, the Lancomatic faded into obscurity. A one-off experiment that proved some ideas are better left in the concept stage, or the parts bin. The Lamborghini Miura was a raging bull. The Espada was a stylish matador in a tailored suit, commanding attention even without raising its voice. The Series 3 refined the Grand Tour's already bold silhouette with a handful of tasteful, practical, and slightly eccentric updates. Let's start from the ground up. Gone were the chassis knockoff wheels of old. In came a set of newly designed 5-stud alloys, still aggressive, but now a little more refined. These are wrapped in wider Pirelli Centerato 215/70 WR15CN12 tires, giving the Espada more grip and stance, like swapping dress shoes for Italian-made combat boots. The front grille got a facelift too, trading its hexagonal mesh for a more formal square pattern. Out back, the taillights were borrowed from the Alfa Romeo 1750 Bertone. Yes, Lamborghini was cross-shopping for style in Milan. And for those who wanted to let in a little more sunlight, or at least pretend it wasn't always leaking in from all that glass, a sunroof was finally offered. Sculpted by a Bertone and refined like a fine Italian espresso, the Espada Series III design wasn't just about flash. It was about balancing exotic flair with everyday elegance. Under that long, flat hood of the 1972 Espada Series III lurked something truly operatic. A 3.9-liter Lamborghini V12, tuned to produce a glorious 350 horsepower. That's not just an engine. It's a mechanical symphony with 12 screaming tenors and no conductor to hold them back. This was the same basic V12 that powered the legendary Miura, but in the Espada, it had a different role. Less rockstar, more grand maestro. It was smooth, sophisticated, but still packed enough punch to hurl this 4-seat exotic to around 155 miles per hour, making it one of the fastest family cars on the planet in its day. Fuel delivery came courtesy of 6 Weber carburetors, each one practically a mini jet engine. They demanded respect, maintenance, and the occasional prayer. But when tuned just right, the sound and throttle response was nothing short of divine. The engine wasn't just a heart, it was a heartbeat. It throbbed with character and Italian fury, sending all that glorious power to the rear wheels with the kind of raw honesty modern cars often hide behind software. In short, this wasn't just performance. This was passione meccanica, mechanical passion, pure and unfiltered. When it came to putting all that V12 fury to the pavement, the Espada Series III didn't mess around. It came equipped with a Zia 5-speed manual transmission, a German-built box of precision that felt like shifting a vault door with a race car urgency. This wasn't some vague rubbery lever from your dad's station wagon. This was a proper gear selector that rewarded skill and punished laziness. Miss a shift, and you'd hear about it. Loudly. The gear ratios were tightly spaced, keeping the 3.9-liter V12 in the meat of its power band, ready to sing its 7,500 RPM aria at the tap of a toe. For those who saw driving more as a leisurely waltz than a tango, Lamborghini added an optional 3-speed Chrysler Torque Flight automatic in 1974. Yes, the same rugged unit found in muscle cars and big sedans. Bit of a culture clash? Sure, but it actually worked surprisingly well, letting the Espada loaf along in style without sacrificing too much of its Italian drama. Whether you prefer row your own or let it do the work, the drivetrain in the Espada Series III gave you options: performance purist or luxury cruiser. Either way, the rear wheels were getting one hell of a workout. Beneath the Lamborghini Espada Series III's sharp Italian suit was a chassis built with the precision of a Renaissance cathedral and the muscle of a prize fighter. The frame was a semi-monocoque design crafted from pressed steel and square-section tubing, topped off with a lightweight aluminum hood, because even Italian exotics need to watch their waistline. The architecture was developed by Marchesi of Modena, the same artisans behind the Mira and Islero chassis, so you know it wasn't just some glorified scaffolding. Once Marchesi was done, Bertone stepped in, dressing it in steel and glass, adding paint and trim like a Savile Row tailor fitting a bespoke tux. Final assembly happened at Lamborghini's Sant'Agata factory, where they added the heart and soul. Now, let's talk suspension. The Espada Series III borrowed its setup from the earlier 400 GT 2+2, but gave it a more refined twist. We're talking double wishbones, coil springs, telescopic Coney dampers, and anti-roll bars front and rear. The Series III also received revised rear suspension arms and updated spring and shock rates for tighter, more confident handling. Want to glide like a Roman emperor? Power steering was standard, and for the truly smooth operator, only one had the Lancomatic hydro-pneumatic suspension. Buona strada. Step inside the Lamborghini Espada Series III, and you're not just entering a car, you're stepping into a rolling Italian lounge, where luxury means lunacy in the best way possible. The cabin was draped in high-quality leather upholstery, with enough hide to make a Gucci bag blush. And unlike most exotic cars of the era, the Espada didn't pretend to be a two-seater with a guilt trip in the back. It had genuinely spacious rear seats, meaning you could finally bring friends without sacrificing their spinal health. The dashboard in the Series 3 was completely redesigned, offering improved ergonomics and better layout, because even Lamborghini drivers occasionally like to know what's going on under the hood without squinting like they're reading ancient Roman inscriptions. It wasn't all speed and noise either. The Espada came loaded with creature comforts: power windows, air conditioning that actually worked, and even an optional 8-track stereo system for the smoothest possible soundtrack to your 155-mile-per-hour Italian opera. It wasn't just a car interior. It was a cabin designed for a rock star who'd finally decided to settle down. Slightly. Fast, refined, and shockingly civilized. The Espada's interior was where Supercar XS met Grand Touring sensibility, and they got along fabulously. Let's talk about the stuff that keeps the Espada planted, pointed in the right direction, and perhaps most importantly, able to stop once it gets going. Starting at the back, the Espada Series III used an open differential, which meant both rear wheels didn't always spin together. It wasn't quite as aggressive as a limited slip setup, but for a grand tour, it kept things smooth and civil, like a butler gently guiding power out of tight corners. But where the Espada really showed off was in the braking department. This wasn't your average stop when it feels like an Italian setup. This was serious hardware. It came with ventilated disc brakes on all four corners, and they weren't messing around. Up front, you got the 300mm discs, while the rear packed 280mm units. Plenty of meat to slow down this 3,500-pound land missile. The whole system was built by Girling, with servo-assisted braking to make the pedal feel as reassuring as your mom's cooking. And those 3-piston calipers, front and rear, bit down like a caffeinated alligator. Bigger calipers up front ensured balance under hard braking. So yes, the Espada could haul 4 people at 150 miles per hour and stop just as impressively when the fun needed a breather. If most Lamborghinis are like tailored tuxedos, sleek, sharp, and built to turn heads, then the Espada is a full-length velvet overcoat, bold, stylish, and surprisingly practical. At 186.5 inches long, this thing stretched out like it was designed to double as a runway. It's nearly as long as a modern-day SUV, yet only 46.7 inches tall, which means it's lower than your kitchen counter. You don't step into the Espada, you fall into it gracefully and pray your knees agree. With a width of 73.2 inches, it filled up a lane with swagger, and the 104.3-inch wheelbase gave it the kind of stability you'd expect from a proper Grand Tourer. The long wheelbase wasn't just for show. It provided rear passengers with actual legroom, something of a unicorn in the world of exotic cars. Weighing in at around 3,605 pounds, the Espada wasn't featherlight, but for a V12 power lounge on wheels, it was impressively balanced. It carried its weight like a seasoned opera diva, confidently, with presence, and a touch of drama. This was a Lamborghini that made room for people, luggage, and personality, without sacrificing the low-slung, exotic look that screams, "Built in Italy, driven by legends." Lamborghini Espada Series III was like an Italian Renaissance man. Charming, talented, and a little high maintenance. Let's break it down. Strengths? Phew, it had plenty. First, the 3.9-liter V12. Smooth as silk, but with the lungs of a dragon. It delivered serious speed while sounding like an orchestra on fire. Then, there's a 4-seat layout, which meant you could actually bring people along without folding them like origami. Interior luxury, usable cargo space, and even available air conditioning made it the most livable Lamborghini of its time. But it wasn't all caviar and rev counters. Weaknesses? Whew, you bet. That glorious engine? It was thirsty. Not just for fuel, though, but for constant tuning and attention. Miss a carburetor sink and suddenly your Italian symphony sounded more like a garage band. The open differential didn't always cooperate under spirited driving, and at 3,605 pounds, the Espada was no featherweight. It cornered more like a grand piano on roller skates than a nimble coupe. And then there's the part sourcing. Alpha taillights, Chrysler transmissions. It's like the car was built from an Italian shopping list filled out in 3 different languages. But hey, nobody's perfect, and the Espada wore its flaws with flair. And there you have it, the 1972 Lamborghini Espada Series III, a V12-powered spaceship with seating for 4, wrapped in a suit tailored by Bertone and stitched together with Italian stubbornness and engineering brilliance. It wasn't just a car, it was a rolling contradiction. Practical, yet outrageous, refined, yet unfiltered. The kind of machine that said, yes, I can outrun your sports car and bring your in-laws along for the ride. We've rebuilt this episode from the ground up after some, let's call it YouTube turbulence. But now that we're back on the road, we're glad to have you riding shotgun with us once again. So now we turn it over to you. What do you think? Is the Espada the ultimate Grand Tour, or just a misunderstood Italian oddball with a killer soundtrack? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one, even the ones that question our tire choices. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss a ride through history. Because here at RetroWheelsVault European Edition, it's all about Euro icons, retro soul, only in this vault.